Today I have this cute little round snowman sign for you to put on your dollhouse, either inside or out. Stay tuned and see how fun and easy he is to make. All right, so I have all my pieces to my snowman sign together on my work tile, and I've kept them grouped together like they were on the pattern because that's important so you know what goes with what. There are 4 of the round backs because I find when I don't have a rim around the back, it works better to have that extra layer of the back. There's 3 of the snowman's head and shoulders, plus another one of those, just one, with his little arms on it. There's 3 carrot noses and there's 3 scarves. This little guy with the hands on him, we're going to stick him off to the side. We're not doing anything with him till after he's painted. So we're going to start, I think I'll start with the smallest first. We're going to start with the carrots because my toothpick has no glue on it and my hands may be shaking. It's first thing in the morning. I want to get a good early start today, getting this project put together so that I can get the video ready ahead of time. It took me all day yesterday to get this designed exactly the way I wanted it. Now I always use, if this is the first one of my signs you've watched, this is just plain white medium weight cardstock. There's several reasons for using the white cardstock. Number one, by painting the pieces the colors that you want, the paint is generally more light resistant than the colored cardstock. Also, you don't have to buy as many kinds of paper. I was looking up online because I'm going to have to buy more white paper pretty soon. You can get, not on sale, regular price at a couple of different craft stores I checked. You can get a package of 50 8.5 by 11 sheets for under $10 at every one of them. And they come on sale quite often. So that's a lot of projects. I don't think any of my projects so far anyway have used more than a half sheet of paper at the most. And a lot of them you could get maybe 3 or 4 of. At least you can get 2 per sheet. That's a lot of projects for under $10. Most of us have craft paints of different colors, and craft paints do hold up for quite a while, so you can watch for those to come on sale. You'll notice each month when I do a different series, most of the items I paint, I try to stick to the same colors in that group. All right, let's get the scarf. Now for glue, I prefer a nice thick tacky glue. In fact, a lot of times, I didn't this morning because I knew I had the little tiny pieces. I'll put my tacky glue out a little bit ahead of time and go ahead and let the air kind of thicken it even more. The less moisture in the glue, the less apt it is to warp your paper. I personally don't like glue sticks very well. I've never had good luck. So many times when I use a glue stick to glue a project, especially a seasonal one where it's put away for a year, I come back a year later and my pieces have come apart or partially apart and I have to redo them. We put on a good thick tacky glue and then we paint, and that all of those steps and then the final layer of Mod Podge, all of those steps make this stick together long term. It makes this project something you can display year after year in your dollhouse, not just now and then end up throwing it away. So I'm going to finish up these back pieces, getting them all lined up. I've been having a weird issue with my Cricut in that even if I make a round circle on Design Space and cut it out, it doesn't cut round. It cuts slightly off, which, like in card making, you don't really notice. In Dollhouse Miniatures, where our amount of error we can have is so much less, it really shows up. So I've got to be really careful I get these circles lined up, because no matter what I do, they are not a perfect circle with my Cricut. And I have tried doing the the alignment thing, and for print and cut, and that doesn't help either. I don't know why it's messing them up. But it's not very much. So as long as I get the pieces lined up correctly, it's okay. It doesn't show much. All right. So I am going to let all this glue dry. And then when this glue is dry, I'll come back and we will start painting. Now this glue here, I have just a little plastic container that something came in. I'm going to put that over my glue. That will keep the air from hitting it, and it will stay usable until till the paint is dry on these and I can put them together. So I'll still be using that later. All right, I'll be back to paint in just a moment. All right, my glue has had plenty of time to dry, so let's start painting. I'm going to start with the little arms on here. And most of the paint today, with the exception of this one and the dark blue, were provided by Plaid. These other two are from my collection. And I think all the brushes I'm using today were from Plaid. So I'm going to pick up this little guy. This is that single piece with the snowman body that has the little arms on him. This one is this one is a little tricky because it's so tiny. So be really careful, because these little arms are very fragile on this one. But there we go. And they don't have to be perfect, because they're supposed to look like branches. That brush I'm going to wash right away, so that one I don't need to keep out. Now, let's push these pieces off to the side. We've got our snowman body. And I've got white paint. And yeah, we're going to paint it white because I want to make sure that the paint kind of coats the edges of my piece, which will help it to stay together, help it to look like it is a single piece. And we may need to touch this up after we glue the other piece on later. All right, whoops, come on, lay down. Also, the white paint is a little bit more, it's a little warmer white than the white paper. And this will provide it with the same texture. All right, and then this brush I'm going to put off to the side, wrapped up, and it will be used later to do a second coat off camera. Now, this little tiny triangle, I have Folk Art in Vivid Orange. We use this one a lot at Halloween time. I'm going to use not that one, I want a small one. A little tiny dotting tool. Oops, come on. There we go. I'm shaking now. And again, this will need a second coat, so I'm going to put my brush off to the side. Now for the scarf, my snowman's going to have a red scarf. Your snowman can have any color scarf he wants or that you want him to have. I think I'll hold it. It's easier. And you could flip it over and have the scarf on the other side. Oops, not that brush, this brush. All right. And this brush will be put off to the side for a second coat. And when I put them off to the side, I wrap it with a wet wipe, and that way they stay nice and fresh. For the background, I am using Navy Blue by Folk Art. Any dark, I wanted a dark blue. And it's going to make a really pretty contrast. And this is a rather translucent color, so I will probably end up doing 3 coats of the blue before I come back. So I am going to finish this coat of blue. I'm going to flip it over and do the back side simply so it will keep it a little flatter. And then when I have enough coats of paint on that these all look really nice and rich, I'll come back and we can start some assembly and some detail work on the back. So I'll be back. All right, my blue paint dried and I managed to splatter this while I was trying to see if this was going to work right. So what I've got here is some white acrylic paint, white acrylic paint that I've mixed with some water. And I have a toothbrush. And you can see I've already actually splattered a little bit on there. Dip my toothbrush into that paint. And then use something firm to just splatter it. And if you've got spots you don't like, you can always put the snowman over it. So that needs to dry. And while that's drying, let's go ahead and glue those body parts together. I'll be right back. All right, our sign back is drying over here in the background. So I've got this piece that we painted that the arms are on. Not sure if you can see those on camera or not. They're really, really thin. And we're only going to have 1 layer of those because they were very hard to get lined up when I tried to make them multi-layer. And they don't need to be. So I'm putting glue on the front of that piece. And I'm going to put that to the back of the piece we already did. And then that glue needs to dry. And when that is dry and that white splatter paint is dry, we'll come back and we'll go to our next step of assembly. All right, now that that glue and paint is dry, I kind of played around with this and I decided I think I'm going to put my snowman right here. He's got some good snowflakes there and it kind of covers up those 2 that were really big. So we are going to put some glue on the back of our snowman. And be very careful putting it on the little hands. We are going to coat this with Mod Podge, so that will help to hold those down, and also it will cover up any spots that we get on here from the glue. Get it lined up at the bottom, and then I like to use a dotting tool to kind of make sure I have those little hands pushed down. All right, now this needs to dry before we try to put the other 2 pieces on because we don't want this to move around on us and end up in the wrong spot. So I'm going to cover my glue again and I'm going to let this dry for, probably 10-15 minutes at least, maybe an hour or 2 depending on how my day goes. And then I'll be back and we'll put the rest of this on and then we can paint a face. Well, part of a face. You'll see. All right, our glue is set up enough that this isn't going to move around. So now we need to put some glue on the back of our little scarf. Hopefully I'm not getting my head in the video. I think I've kept everything under camera this time. And then it just fits right there. And then our little carrot nose. And you can put this as far up or down on the face as you want. It's meant to go, our snowman is meant to be looking up. Because I saw several of these signs online for real ones that I thought were just adorable. The further up on his face you put him, the more that will hang off loose though, and that is a weak point. All right, let's get some black paint, and now we're going to hope we don't ruin all our work. So I have black paint and I have a couple of dotting tools. If you don't have dotting tools, you can use like the end of a skewer that you've rounded off, the end of a toothpick, the end of a paintbrush take the smallest one, and I'm going to put and then I like to use a slightly bigger, that one looks like the biggest one. To make a couple of little coal buttons here. And now this all needs to dry, and then we can put a clear coat on, and then we'll see what it looks like in front of the dollhouse. I'll be back when this dries. All right, our glue has dried, so I've got just a scrap of wood here with some of that blue poster tack stuff, and I'm going to stick my little sign right on there. And then I have some satin Mod Podge that I put on this container. It's just that. I don't like to work straight out of the jar unless I know for sure there's not going to be anything that could be wet. And since I'm kind of rushing this project because I'm working on it between other things that I'm doing, I'm not positive everything is totally dry. Everything that has to be dry is totally dry, but there's a possibility there could be a little bit of stuff that's not. There we go. And be sure that you put a fairly light coat of Mod Podge on, because remember, Mod Podge does have a nasty habit of staying sticky if you put on too thick of a coat. I do want it kind of pooled around our little arms though. That will hold them in place. All right, we'll let this dry, and then I'll meet you over at the dollhouse where we will see how this looks next to the front door with the snowman stuff we made last year. We'll see you in a sec.